Goeienaand en welkom by Baarberaad. Ons is nou al by episode 92, maar vanaand maak ons 'n bietjie geskiedenis. Dit gaan die eerste Baarberaad episode in Engels wees. Julle sal nou sien, ek hoop nie ek verkrag die Engels te veel nie, maar ek glo julle sal darm my boere Engels min of meer verstaan. Hi, good evening, Dean. Thanks for joining us tonight.
Elway, thank you very much for having me. It's very nice to be here. My privilege to be here and to see you again.
Yes, Dean, I must apologize, up front if my English somehow get lost or, I use it all up. But I'll try my best to do English. What I just said as an intro to the program, this is my 92nd program already, but it's the first one in English, so you're making history here in South Africa.
Well, I can't tell you who. I was under instructions to give you a hard time about your English, so I'm not going to do it. It works fine for me. As long as you don't give me a hard time about my 3 words in Afrikaans, I'm not going to say anything about your English. It's great.
Well, if you say someone let you know to give me a hard time about my English, I can think of a long list. So it can be any one of many people.
Well,
But Dean,
yes, sir. Go ahead.
Yeah, Dean, sorry. With the 92 programs that we had so far, we only had Boers on here. Boere. So, before we can commence with the program, I need to do the following. I need to say, I knight thee to an honorary Boer. So now you're an honorary Boer, and now we can talk.
All right, so now I can actually be on the program officially. Okay, thank you very much.
Dean, let's start off. Tonight is a special night as well. It's the first launch of your song that you performed for us at Mayuba, and some of the video material in the song was shot at Mayuba. How do you say? Do you say shot? Yeah. How do you say?
What you say, shot? Yeah. Filmed, shot. I like the word shot better.
Yeah. So before we continue, for the people that's unfamiliar with your music, and we'll touch on a lot of your music tonight. Let's first listen to your song, and I hope people enjoy the song. Quit if you can play Dean's.
I think before we do the song, maybe we should give a shout out, not like a shout out, but a shout out to Renus and to Quit, who with Boermedia, who without them there wouldn't be a video. There might be a song, but there wouldn't be a video to go along with it. So it was very kind of them to do this video and to ask me to come along and sing. And then the best part was to cut out all the bad parts. That was the best part. They cut out all the bad parts and tried to leave what few good parts there were in there. So it was I really appreciate that.
On the 16th of December, 1838, 10,000 mighty warriors came to call. They said, we done this before. You might think we're bragging, but they're just a bunch of farmers hiding behind some wagons. But by the end of the day, they were singing a different tune. There were 3,000 dead, and the farmers hadn't lost a man. That's what you call blessings of the Lord, 'cause it ain't easy to give a Boer. You're like that long dirt road I trust to take me home. You're like the sun that won't quit shining storm. You're like the Dragonberg Mountains, God made out of stone. You were the first tribe on this shore, and you'll be the last to go. 'Cause it ain't easy to kill a Boer. On the 11th of October 1899, the greatest army in the world came to call. They said this is gonna be easy, it won't take too long. They're just a bunch of farmers, what could possibly go wrong? But every farmer grabbed his rifle, climbed up on his horse, stopped them cold at Stormberg, and fought for 2 years more. You can take a man's diamonds, take a man's gold, but when you take his family, it's like taking his soul. That's what Queen Victoria did, so she could win a war. 'Cause it ain't easy to kill a Boer. You're like that long dirt road I trust to take me home. You're like the sun that won't quit shining even in a storm. You're like the Dragonberg Mountains, God made out of stone. You were the first tribe on this shore, and you'll be the last to go. 'Cause it ain't easy to kill a Boer. So they can't change the laws and dance the dance, sing that silly song at every chance. Better men have tried before, but it ain't easy to kill a Boer. You're like that long dirt road I trust to take me home. You're like the sun that won't quit shining even in a storm. You're like the Dragonberg Mountains, God made out of stone. You were the first tribe on this shore, and you'll be the last to go. 'Cause it ain't easy to kill a Boer. Ain't nothing changed, it ain't easy to kill a Boer.
Entertaining us.
Well, I hadn't seen the finished video, that Arenas put together. But from what I could see, I think he did considering what he had to work with, he did an excellent job. So, the song is about my friends, my new friends like you, my old friends that I made back in '92, and friends I've made ever since then. So the song is, I wrote them for you guys, or we say I wrote it for y'all. So if people enjoy it, then it means everything to me, especially as a songwriter. If people like your music, if people enjoy your songs, then you've done what you're supposed to do. So it's my privilege. Thank you.
Dean, before we get to the songs and the music, there's just something that I need to ask you. I know just before sunset or late afternoonish, you went up the mountain to film the music video up my Yuba, but I heard when you came down the mountain, you almost had a heart attack.
Oh, you know what? And please say hi to Teresa for saving my life. No, yeah, I think my demise was exaggerated, but it was much harder going up the mountain. And we tricked Quit into thinking that the old man hadn't made it down the mountain, but the mountain was much easier to come down than it was to go up.
Yeah, just for background for the listeners and the viewers, when Dean and the film crew went down the mountain, my wife, which did the medic duties on my Yuba, she went up to see how far they were, and she convinced Dean to fake a heart attack. And the film crew was very worried that the American will not only the English, maybe an American will die on my Yuba as well. So luckily we could save his life. So yeah, thanks for being a great sport about that.
Yeah, well, it was a lot of fun. It was a little hard going up the mountain, I think, but it was a lot of fun, being up there. And Renus did a great job, and his friend Johan did a great job doing some filming, and no, it was cool. It was something nice, and it was something fun to do. So I just hope folks will enjoy the video.
Dean, last week we spoke on this program about the happenings at my Yuba and what went down and what the people could would have missed, and all the happenings around there. But obviously I took it out of the viewpoint of a guy that's a part of my Yuba. For you as a first time visitor, how did you find the festival? Was it enjoyable? What did you get out of it?
Well, there's a saying back home that if you don't know where you came from, you won't know where you're going. So I think it's important to, whoever we are, and wherever we come from, to remember the people that came before us, to remember the good times, because sometimes, especially in this world today, times can be tough. And I think what I saw that was very enjoyable, I saw the young people running around without a care in the world. Nobody was worried about their child being missing. This is something we even need back home. No one was worried about their child getting lost, or where they were, or what was happening to them, or whether somebody's going to be in trouble, or whether somebody's going to get lost or hurt. And that was just a wonderful experience. I'm sure it was a great experience for all the parents that don't have to worry about their kids for a few minutes, that can think about other things. And I saw a bunch of people enjoying themselves, with kind of the cares of the world lifted off of their shoulders for a few days.
I just want to, while we talk, I want to invite the people that's looking at the video on Facebook, on the Boermedia channel, as well as the Baarberaad channel. I'll be following the comments here. So if you've got any questions that you want me to ask Dean, you're welcome to put it on there in the comments, and we'll see if we can ask Dean. I see there's a couple of people watching already, so you are welcome to put any questions there. Dean, before you went to my Yuba in December, you went to Blood River as well. And what was it like at Blood River, especially to be part of the process where they renewed the vow at Blood River, did that have any meaning for you as an outsider?
You know, a friend of mine, uh, she was a worker at one of the places that I stayed, and at a bed and breakfast in Hatfield, and her grandmother was very, very sick, and there was no hope for her grandmother, and all the doctors said, because she just kept swelling up, and she said she's going to die, and she's just give up hope, she's dead. Well, they prayed for her, and she's doing fine today, and that was a year ago. And I think when people in today's world, we can go to the doctor, we have all kinds of answers. If we don't like the television, we can turn it off. We want to see something new, we can watch it. I mean, everything's at our fingertips. But I think when you really need God, like the Boer's ancestors did at Blood River, when you really need a miracle, then people pray and God answers. And when we have all the answers and all the solutions for ourselves, I think sometimes God says, okay, it's like having a kid. You say, okay, you think that's going to work? I'm like a dad. I'm going, okay, try it. Let's watch that work, because that's not going to work. And so, it's an interesting story about Blood River. I had been here in the late 80s and the early 90s, and I always told, and then I went home, raised my children. And when my son got out of college, I told him, let's go to South Africa, because I had been talking to him about it for, I don't know, most of his life. So we came over here in 2019, and then the first part of 2020, we got stuck in COVID. Well, during this time, we went out to Blood River, and I saw this and then there was no one at Blood River, but I had a copy of my CD, It Ain't Easy to Kill a Boer. So I gave it to some big guy out there, and I saw a big guy, and I said, oh, by the way, here's a CD. I gave it to a big guy. And so it wasn't like 3 months ago in December, it was the year before that I was there in Blood River. And so that November before that, I called and I called out to, well, whoever you call, that's in charge of Blood River and everything. And I said, I'd like to come sing a song. He says, oh, it was Anton. And he said, I know you gave me a CD 2 years ago. And I said, oh, that was you. And he said, oh, yeah. He says, that was me. He says, sure, come out and sing. So he invited me to come out and sing. And that's how I ended up going out there to sing. But a funny part of the story is he told me, he says, oh, by the way. So he says, by the way, I have my bucky, and I left my CD player in the bucky. And my Zulu workers took it down to town with them. And I said, so when they pulled back in, they were playing It Ain't Easy to Kill a Boer at the top of the top of the He said, and then they borrowed it for the party, and they had a party like on their house up on the hill. And he said, they could hear all during the party, It Ain't Easy to Kill a Boer. So that was so. But as far as my experience there, I really enjoyed it. It's nice. Nowadays people don't need miracles. We have everything else. It seems like all of our needs are met everywhere else we look to but God. But I think God is still a big God, and I think he still does miracles. And I'm trusting that he'll do a miracle, for this country, because he did miracles back then. And I think the Boer people are living proof of a miracle, of miracles, not just that one, but many miracles that happened during Blood River. So that was how to make a short story long instead of a long story short.
Dean, yeah, I see Johan. That's the one. We've got two Johans here at Boermedia, but Johan with a long beard, he already said he's only listening to the program to laugh at my English. So I have I have a suspicion of who spoke to you. But Johan asked the question now as well, and it's something that I wanted to ask you too. It's on my list. In one of your songs, I think it was. And I must say, before I ask the question, we were privileged at my Yuba on Saturday night around our campfire. Dean performed some of his songs for us, and he went through a whole lot of songs, so that was quite enjoyable. And in one of those songs, I think it sounds like Texas to me. you actually draw a line between the similarities between the Boer people and, let's call it, the more rural Americans. Don't you just want to elaborate on that a little bit, please?
I would like to go back a second and set the record straight. So it's actually not a privilege to listen to me sing. It's really a privilege to be able to sing my songs to the people that I wrote them for. You guys are the ones with the skin in the game. You guys are the ones in the trenches every day. I said once, I'm not a singer. I work for a living. And then I realized how hard that people like Adam Toss, they really, really, really work hard. So I try not to say that anymore because they're very hard workers. But before I started singing, I had just an everyday regular job. My first job when I was younger was I was building cotton ginneries. So I built cotton ginneries in different places, South America, Ghana, and then I ended up here putting a cotton ginnery up in Jan Kempthorpe. Back before they had pecan nuts, they did a lot of cotton around Jan Kempthorpe. So that was my first trip to Jan Kempthorpe. And when I was there, they made a mistake of loaning me a bucky because I wanted to go to Kimberley. And I know I told you this story. So I'm driving along there, and I'm singing to myself, and I look up and there's this idiot in front of me driving on the wrong side of the road. So I start going, what the heck, And then, of course, I realized the idiot was me driving on the wrong side of the road. But when I was driving between Kimberley and Jan Kempthorpe, the first, there's a windmill, there's a couple cows, there's a barbed wire fence, there's all the things that are found in Lubbock, Texas, and around Amarillo and many other places in Texas that you drive around. And then to me, the excuse me, the people were so much like Texans because we laughed at the same stupid jokes, and sometimes occasionally there'd be a good joke, but we laughed at the same things, but the same things were funny, we made fun of each other, we could laugh at each other. People believed in going to church, they believed in family, they believed in God. And so I just found so many similarities between how I was raised and the everyday average hardworking farming Boer that I just fell in love with South Africa. So that was why I wrote the song. It sounds like Texas to me.
And it seems, we'll talk a little bit later where people can find your music. But if I look this afternoon, I went through a lot of your songs and I re-listened to them again. But like the Boer people, it seems like religion also plays a big part in your music and also a big part of your life.
My grandmother was a Assemblies of God pastor. You guys would call that Pentecostals here. I think Assemblies of God is qualified as a Pentecostal. So my grandmother was a Pentecostal preacher. And then my father was also a preacher. And then my father went from being a preacher to being a missionary. And we don't get to go to heaven because our parents were Christians, obviously. But no, I tried living a life without the Lord for years. And I just turned my life back over to the Lord for pure selfish reasons, because I kept doing things on my own and just wasn't working out very well, So if there comes a time where you say, I think if there's 3 stages of life: eat up with it, beat up with it, and worn out with it. And I always think that, so the first few years of your life, you're just eat up with it. Eat up with the dumb, and I can't say the last word, because Quit will mute me over here. But so you eat up with it, and then you're beat up with the, and then finally you're worn out with it. You're just worn out. And I think that's a good stage to be at, because when you're worn out, you think to yourself, I'm going to try that. And you go, oh no, I've been eat up with it, beat up with it. I'm at the worn out stage, so you don't do it. And you say, hey, God, I want to do this, but, could you help me with my life? And so, I think that I don't do such a good job. Sometimes someone said to me, "You must be a." I did something. We have a little company back home, and I did something for a lady, and she says, "Oh," she says, "you is a black lady." And she said, "You must be a fine Christian." And I said, "No, ma'am." I said, "The reason I'm doing this for you is because I'm such a bad Christian, you know." But I know that I can trust. I know that God loves me, you know, and I know that He has a plan for my life, and so you know, God plays a big role in my life. And I wouldn't be in South Africa if it weren't for God opening up doors.
Yeah, I must say, and Johan is gonna laugh now because I can't get to the English word. In Afrikaans, we will say, "Dis 'n wonderlike getuienis." You know, it's a wonderful. I see Google Translate is lying to me because but I know the translation that it gave me is wrong. So, yeah, it's good to hear you talk about your Christianity and that you're not ashamed to be a Christian. You know, nowadays most people want to be politically correct, and it's not so politically correct nowadays to proclaim that you're a Christian. But it seems like you almost have as much political correctness as our Boers. You know, that's not something that we that we worry a hell of a lot about.
I heard someone said when you're tired of telling people about God, just preach with your life. So I think that's, you know, that would be if I could do that, that would, you know, when usually people are Christians, they don't have to run around telling people they're Christians because everyone knows. In fact, usually the ones that tell you they're Christians, you kind of start to worry about them, you know.
One of the things that plays a big part of your songs as well, and I must say, this afternoon I listened to the songs a couple of times, and you know, I don't want. At the beginning of the program, they had a blue light on you, and they changed that. But I almost felt blue and had quite a, um, you know, knob in my throat. It was hard to swallow just because of the words of the song, and it's something that really touched my soul. But there's a couple of songs that you do about farm murders. You know, the one song is "I Know Why the Dirt Is Red." And then you do another one about farm murders, No More, and then you do the Black Monday song as well. And you know, like I say, we'll tell the people where to go and look for your music. But that's really touching the soul, and you caught the essence of farm murders and what we are going through. What's your passion about? You know, promote, or I don't want to say promote, but about telling the world about the farm murders in South Africa through your music.
You know, I wish I could say that, and I think that's one of the things about South Africa that to me is so important. Uh, is I think in the States, for the most part, people are interested in their TikTok and their Facebook page and maybe the movies on Friday night. And they've really lost touch in so many aspects, lost touch with their families, lost touch with God, lost touch with each other. And that's one of the things, you know, they asked me back I remember someone asked me back when I was here in '89, they said, "What do Americans think about South Africa?" And I told them I had to say, I said, "Americans don't think about South Africa," you know, and of course, there's no news at all in the States about South Africa unless it's bad. So there's a song that I wrote called "Mr. President," and it talks about basically what I try to do in my songs is I listen to you, you know, I listen to Quit, I listen to other people talk about what's happening and what's going through on, and then I try to put it in a song. So it's not that I'm trying to preach on my own or solve any problems in South Africa. I'm just trying to listen. I had one of the guys that's a singer here in South Africa who I won't mention. He said to me, he said, "Dean," I says, "I wish I could write the kind of songs that you're writing." He says, "But if I did, I wouldn't have a career. I wouldn't have, you know." And so I did a video, and a friend of mine said, he said, "If I did the video," he said, "I would be in jail." And I talked to my son today on the phone, and he said, I said, I'm going to do a video, going to do a conversation today with Boermedia, and he says, "Oh, he says that's nice, Dad. That'll be nice until you get thrown out of the country." and so one of the songs, you probably can't hear this very good, but one of the songs says it's called Rainbow, and it's the only gold at the end of the rainbow is in the pockets of the ANC. And then the song goes, "Well, I still got hope. And I hope I'm not wrong, but they'll probably throw me out of the country for singing this here song." So I don't have the skin in the game like you guys have. Now, you guys, like I said, are in the trenches every day. You're trying to run businesses in the middle of an environment that chokes and kills most businesses, but you're farming in with all the problems and the issues that most farmers have never even imagined exist. And yet you're succeeding and you're successful at that. And so that in itself is just amazing.
Yeah, you've actually did a couple of answers here of questions that I wanted to ask. So, but one of the things that you say that South Africans probably, or they are too scared, basically the South African musicians, to do the type of songs that you do. Do you think that there's so much risk in it? Don't you think that we need, our own musicians to start standing on their back legs? We know one of the guys, and he doesn't do a hell of a lot of Boer songs necessarily, but just because of his outspoken nature, Steve Hofmeyer gets booted off ships, and shows get cancelled by the mob. But don't you think there's a balance? If a hell of a lot of our musicians do it, they can't cancel them all.
I wrote a song, like I said, it's called Mr. President. It talks about the president here. And, I thought to myself, a friend of mine heard the music and she said, "Just change the words and make it about Biden." And I said to my girlfriend, she said, "Don't change the words, write another song." So I'm actually in the process of writing another song, and where it says, the song here says, "Hey, Mr. President, you can't plow a field in Durban. There's no cows in Joburg. There's no corn or maize in Soweto, and city people go hungry when country folk don't grow food." But the American version goes, talking to Biden, says, "We know you don't like country, and Mr. President, country don't like you." So the whole, and but nowadays what's happening in the States is they're basically sicking the FBI on you, and so they're sicking the FBI on you, or sicking these tax people on you, or sicking different things on you because you're saying something that they don't appreciate. So I've decided to put a little skin in the game back in my own home country, and so I'm doing the video about Mr. President. You don't like country, and country don't like you, because half the people in America, we really have two Americas today. We have one America that believes in abortion, that believes in the LGBTQ, RSTU, whatever it is, and gay marriage, and dads aren't important, and God doesn't exist, abortion up till 9 months. We have all that America that believes that. And yet we have an America that believes still in God. And that's the America that, and country don't like you. That's the country America. So I'll go ahead and do that. We'll see how it comes out. And if it does anything over there, it'll give me an opportunity to speak about what's going on in South Africa.
Well, Dean, I suppose if you do a song about Joe Biden, you need to write the song in incoherent sentences, so nobody can quite understand what you're singing.
Well, yeah, that might be an idea. But I think I'll have to write it to where, as a writer, where people can understand a few of the words, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I must say, here on Boermedia, like you say, the guys are. It sounds like the guys are afraid to come on to Boermedia. I don't know if we've got a reputation for, to get kicked out of the country. Luckily, we've haven't ran into too big trouble here at Boermedia, but yeah, we're not afraid to say what needs to be said. One of the things, and I must get this out there because he might be on the list laughing at my English. Here at Boermedia, you don't have to say Mr. President. You can just say Tian's president. Tian, our friend there from the Karoo, he's very fond of our president. I'm sure if he's watching, I'll get a rude comment out here. Excuse me. Sorry, I'm just going to my notes. There was a couple of things that I wanted to rant past you. In your music as well, I thought I'll give you a good Afrikaans lesson. Although I like your music, there's a couple of things in your song or names in your song that you didn't quite get right.
Oh, I know one of them, and one of them, I realized that the other day because I think I called a quit Koots, something like that, right? And, yeah, okay, go though. Go ahead. I'm sure there's more. Go ahead and tell me what they are, and I'll try to learn.
No, it's not about that. It's actually about place names. One of the songs, and it's actually bad because it's quite a nice, touching song. But you said on a farm in Northwest. In Afrikaans we say Wes-Transvaal. It's actually one of the name changes that happened in 94. So it's the Western Transvaal. And in another song you said Limpopo, and that's also, we call it Noord-Transvaal or Northern Transvaal. So we must just get you right. We don't want to use the names of the oppressors. We want to use our names that we gave the places.
Well, I guess I had an Afrikaner down at the corner that was helping me with those places. So I guess I needed a real honest to goodness Boer to help me with those places, and I got it right.
Yeah, I'm sure Quinn is laughing in the background because normally when he talks about the new names, I always give him the old names. So yeah, no, that's just a little side joke. But you've mentioned before that you obviously aren't new to our country. You visited our country in '92, and I'm glad we didn't scare you away. That you actually came back, and that you have a love for our people to actually write songs about that. What is it specifically about the Boers that touched your heart? You said that there's a lot of similarities before, but it's not very usual to get someone that comes back and has a love for the people, actually more than some of the. I know we learned you an Afrikaans word. Some of the people of the folk. It seems like you have a bigger love than some people that's part of our folk.
Well, I sat in a room once, and I got all this information. People were telling me all these things I didn't want to hear. That would in that time was very devastating to my life. And I remember sitting there, and I had to say to myself, okay, God, you're in charge of everything, or you're in charge of nothing in my life. So I had to, when the meeting was done, I said, God, you're in charge of everything. That you let this happen to me, and because it's part of your plan. And so I believe you're in charge of everything. So from that point on, I just been trying, instead of trying to make my own way, I just tried to get up every day and surrender to whatever God's plan was. And I can tell, all I can give is my testimony, which is honor your mother and father. Even though my dad and I, we weren't the best of friends, I know he tried, but still, I was able to honor my parents. You know, there, you know, there's a verse in the Bible. They asked Jesus about honoring your mother and father, and Jesus said, "That's the first commandment with promise. You're told to honor your mother and father, but you say," he told the Pharisees, "you say that you gave your money at church, so now you don't have any money to give your parents." So it's not so much about you're a good parent. And if it's about if you have some money, help your parents with it. That's the commandment. So I was actually able to stay for 30 years. When I came back from South Africa in '92, I wanted to go to Nashville, and I wanted to write songs. And so I had the opportunity to take over my dad's business and provide him a living, or go to Nashville. And most of the time I make the wrong decision, I just do the wrong one. But in this case, God gave me the grace. I was able to make the right decision. So I didn't go to Nashville. I didn't get to write songs. I raised two kids, and for 30 years I took care of my dad. So, and God knows all that about our lives. He's not surprised. I remember I told folks at Blood River, God's not up in heaven wringing his hands going, "Oh no, what am I going to do about the Boers? This is such a problem. I wish I had an answer." God has all the answers. Sometimes it's not the answers that we like, but I know, and so it was every other Christian, that God has a plan. So I'm, I'm in, I'm back in the States. My father passes away, you know, and uh, and so I hear on the news this song. No, I guess it is a song. Zuma singing "Kill the Boer." Most people think it's Malema, but it's actually Zuma's on YouTube singing also. So I saw Zuma singing "Kill the Boers, kill the Boer," and I thought to myself, "Well, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard." Because I, like a lot of good Americans or travelers in Africa, I had read some Wilbur Smith books, and I knew that the Boers weren't easy to kill. So I started reading a little bit more, started looking into history a little more, and I found out, all kinds of, they're not things maybe said about the Boer, but easy to kill wasn't one of them. And so it just ticked me off enough that I wrote the song "It Ain't Easy to Kill a Boer." It took me about 3 months to write it. And I'm on my guitar and I'm writing it, whenever I have a chance, but just kind of to show you how God works. So I wanted to go to Nashville, write songs. I gave up that dream, and instead I took care of my parents. And maybe for some people it's other things. You have a dream, you think you got to do this dream, and you're knocking down every door to do it. You're bullying people over, and instead I think we ought to be waiting on what God has. Or at least I can tell you by my testimony, that not that I didn't want to escape, the job. I did. But so my dad passes away. I wrote this song, and no sooner had I finished the song, a couple of days, I hadn't seen Afrikaners in 10 years in Houston, and two Afrikaners walk in the door, and I just finished this song, and I said to them, "Hey," I said, "would you like to hear a song?" So they go back in my little warehouse, and I sing the song, "It Ain't Easy to Kill a Boer." And they said, "Oh, you need to go to the Potjie Festival in Houston." And so I went to the Potjie Festival. I met Adam Toss, great guy. I saw some folks with, with AfriForum and folks. And so that was the start of me actually coming over to sing. And that was because of actually being able to wait on God, for some kind of an answer for my life. And I'm not saying it wasn't a hard 30 years. I mean, at times it was. But I'll tell you what, I got to write a song, and instead of writing a song about being in a pickup, getting drunk, a Nashville song about whatever, I get to write a song about that they've emailed me, they've texted me, they've said, I was in my car, I heard your song, I started crying. So now for a songwriter, for someone to tell you that a song has touched you so deeply, that's the answer to, I don't ever have to write another song or do anything else. People said to me, that song blessed me. And so that's I could just be another old guy in Houston, sitting in my rocking chair, ready to watching TV, like so many other people. But, God gave me the opportunity to come over here and maybe to be a blessing to a group of people that I really, really, really enjoy being with, a group of people that I've come to love, that are just like being back home. And I get to come over and maybe be a blessing. That's kind of the whole point. I'm not in my rocking chair anymore. I'm well, I never really was, but I can come over here and I can sing some song. I can lift some spirits. I can say, look, God is really in charge of this world. I don't have any answers, but I know God has the answers. And here's a song I wrote. And here's a song I wrote about you, or here's a song I wrote about me, and I hope you enjoy it.
So, other than music, what does Dean Chancy do? What do you do to keep you busy, other than songwriting and singing? What other hobbies do you have?
I make stuff. Our business back in the States, we make a lot of stuff out of leather. So, I enjoy making stuff out of leather. I really enjoy people. Not really, I'm not really an entertainer. Go out and sing in front of a bunch of people. That's pretty scary. But I enjoy 2 or 3 people talking about things that matter. You know, I have a wonderful girlfriend, and she has been here in South Africa for 20 years. And we have a lot in common. And so I enjoy spending time with her because I'm not 18 years old anymore. I can just sit there and drink a cup of coffee and eat an ice cream and say, hey, babe, are we going to walk the dog or what? That's pretty much an adventure for me. And every once in a while, people like Quid will go, hey, you want to go for a ride? Or somebody will come say, hey, you want to sing somewhere? And I say, yeah, I like to sing somewhere. So I really enjoy meeting people, and I really enjoy talking to them, and it's funny, I'll go to Wimpy's maybe and buy a milkshake, like any old guy. And, in the waiter, I'll say, what do you think the biggest problems are in South Africa? He'll tell me what he thinks the biggest problems are in South Africa. And then I asked 3 little white girls, and they think the biggest problems in South Africa exactly what the waiter thought were the biggest problems in South Africa, And so, no, so I talk to people and I say, what do you think about South Africa? What do you think? Or, can God help us? Is God the answer? Do people have to do it? So, I enjoy talking to people about what's going on because that's one thing I think we're missing in the States. In the States, it's, hey, did you see that program about some stupid idiot that did something, in that Netflix program? Well, what does that really matter? It doesn't really matter. It's not hope for our children. It's not hope for our lives. It's not anything. So I enjoy, the reality of real people here in South Africa.
Dean, where can, and I must say before I ask you that question, I'm sure the people can see my nice hat, and I must say I'm very proud
nice
to
hat.
wear this hat. Dean gave it to me at my Yuban, so it's quite nice to wear. Dean, where can people get hold of your music? Do you sell CDs? How do you get the word out about your music? And tell us a little bit more. Where can people find you? Where can they listen to all the songs that I mentioned before?
Everything is, you can stream it for free, listen to it for free on my website. You can listen to it on any of the music streaming services, Apple, anybody else that streams them. Any of the music services have the songs. You can also go on YouTube and listen to all the songs on YouTube. They're all on there. And if folks really want to hear me sing and they can get more than one person together, that's my prerequisite. 2 people, that's my prerequisite. I travel around a little bit and I'll sing. I'm going down to sing in I think the 21st of April for a group of people called the Water Warriors, and they're helping folks north of Cape Town with water. So we'll do a little fundraiser there. Hopefully there's more than 3 people will show up. But if people want to doing a fundraiser or they want me to come sing, I'll come sing for them. I don't charge anything to come sing, as long as I can put some petrol in my tank, as you guys call it. We call it gasoline. Yeah, and I'll come sing as long as people are interested in hearing the songs. They can just get in touch with me on Facebook or I'm sure Quit has my information. You have my information, and I'm happy to come sing and try to lift spirits up and say that that look, you guys, no one has forgotten. There's people in Texas where I come from that still pray for you guys, that think about you. Not everybody in Texas, not everybody in America is watching CNN or glued to their television or their different, they actually care about people and they've heard about you. And God knows there are enough South Africans in America to be praying. There's probably millions of them.
Yes, I see here in the comments on Boermedia. I think Quit or Narinas have put the link to your songs, and it's at deansongs.com, and people can listen to your music there. But do you sell your CDs? How do you monetize this? How do you keep afloat if you give everything away?
So I figured like this. The Bible says, give and it shall be given, pressed down, shaken together, and running over. So every time I give somebody a hat, I get like, or give them a CD, I got like God's arm behind his back saying, okay, no, no, I love what I do. And as long as I I found a place to get the hats made a little bit cheaper. So as long as I can make a hat and pass them out whenever I go, I mean, if it gets to the point where I can no longer afford to pass out some CDs and pass out some hats, then I may have to sell them to cover my expenses. But up till now, that hasn't happened.
I just want to come back. I was just looking at the time with one eye. But you said you make back in the States. You do some leather work. You make some stuff out of leather. What kind of stuff do you make out of leather? Our South Africans love our wood and leather. Especially our farm boys.
I have a leather case for my phone, and I carry it on the outside of my belt. And I have a knife stuck in it and a phone stuck in it, and everyone thinks it's a gun. So, so people will. I went in someplace. He said, "You can't bring the gun in here." So, and everyone looks at it. And I pulled my phone out the other day, and the guy said, "Oh, I thought you were pulling a gun out of your case." So everyone thinks it's a gun. So when I go someplace that I think I'm a little insecure, I just put my hand on top of my gun phone, and so I make that. I make little wallets, like small little wallets. I'll show you one. See, it's like your cards go in there, because nowadays everything's a card.
Yeah.
So I make stuff like that. We actually have a service business. You wouldn't think that it's very artsy fartsy kind of business. It was actually started, that's a whole nother story, but it was started by an alcoholic drug addict. And God saved him and turned his life around. He started a whole business where ended up about 25 different companies around the United States repairing leather. So if a dog bites a hole in your sofa, or a kid chews a hole in the cushion, which has happened, I went to this house and I said, "Ma'am, I've never." We would go for stores into the house, and the lady says, "There's a hole in the cushion." I said, "Yes, ma'am." I said, "How does it happen?" She says, "Oh, my daughter sits there, and when she watches TV, she chews on the corner." So that we repair that kind of stuff. Parrots, accidental spills, cuts, holes, rips, tears, all in leather furniture, leather automobiles, stuff like that. So it's very artsy fartsy kind of a business. But my dad came back from the mission field, didn't have a job, and somebody that had been in his church before said to my dad, "Hey, Leroy, why don't you try doing this?" So my dad started the business, and so my son is actually working there now. I said, "Here, son," I said, "have the business. There's the business. I'm going to South Africa." And he said, "Dad," he said, "how come you get to go have an adventure?" I said, "Well, come on, son, come have an adventure too." So we were here and stuck in COVID 2020. So I'm hoping he'll come back and we'll have some more adventures, leave the business for a couple months.
Yeah, I see one of the guys also. I think you know him, Johan Fourie. I see in the comments he says that he had to look twice to see if you aren't carrying, a gun at your side. He says that'll be like you Texans, to carry.
Yeah. Back home, it's interesting. You can actually if you're a law-abiding citizen in Texas, you can carry a pistol exposed on your belt. If you want to carry it concealed, you have to get a license, but you can carry it around with you everywhere now. So that's pretty cool.
But I think that might be one of the similarities between the Texans and the South Africans as well. We quite love our guns. Most of the guys that I know don't only have one gun. You have most of the guys living on a farm do have a self-defense gun that they do carry. Unlike you Texans guys, we need to conceal carry. That's in the laws. But also get a gun, a small gun for vermin, and a shotgun for wing shooting, the guinea fowl and doves in the fields, and then you have the bigger guns to go hunt all kind of buck, antelope, that sort of thing. So back home, do you have a couple of guns as well? Do you like shooting?
We're blessed back home because it's easier and it's a lot cheaper to buy a weapon back home. And I was young when I was young and dumb, about 17. I joined the army because my favorite uncle had joined the army. So that was the start of my guns. We don't call them guns though. When you're in the army, you don't get to call them a gun. You have to call it a weapon. But yeah, so every time there's a change in politics or government in the States, we get scared and go buy guns. So my son looks at me, Dad, we got to buy some guns. And what are we buying now? So we'll run out every time there's when Obama was in, I was scared to death, and I bought an Uzi and I bought an AK-47, and then that wasn't enough, And then we get Biden in, and we're going, okay, let's get some ammunition, let's get some more magazines, And my son goes, yeah, Dad, I'm going to get that, Dad, So yeah, so I can't even tell you how many guns we have, but yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I think a lot of South Africans would like to come to Texas just, to get hold of the guns, because in South Africa, it's with the licensing of the guns, it's something that takes ages, and you're only allowed to have a certain amount of ammunition. So it's very regulated here in South Africa. So we can't have everything that we want. To have multiple guns, you need to be a dedicated hunter or dedicated sport shooter. Otherwise you are very limited with guns. So I think you guys are quite blessed to just go into a shop and buy whatever your heart wants. What you like. That must be quite nice.
Well, they do a background check. They can do it real quick now. So they'll do a quick background check. Sometimes it takes 10 minutes, and you can't buy a pistol the same day, because too many guys are getting like really mad at someone and going in and buying a pistol and going back out and shooting them. So you can't buy a pistol the same day. If you're buying a pistol, you're buying a rifle, you can get it the same day. But a pistol in Texas, you actually have to you can go and apply for it, calm down for a day, and you can come back and get it the next day. It's really, you give the guy you're mad at gets a chance to go get his pistol for a day. That's really why I think they wait a day. That's the pistol before he gets his.
Yeah, here in South Africa, you do a competency, but competency takes something up to about 6 months nowadays, and then then only after you have your competency you can go buy a gun, and then that can take anything from 3 months to almost 3 years, because it depends on where your licensing ends up in the pile, so that's quite a frustrating part of trying to get a gun in South Africa. But like I say, if you love the guns enough, you'll tolerate all the, I almost said bullshit behind it, to get your hands on a good gun.
Well, one of the interesting facts is you guys put silencers on your guns here all the time. And it's very difficult to get a silencer back home. That you have to go get a police check. You have to either that or have to put it on your company. If you have a company, you have to sign it as a part of your company. So it is difficult to get a silencer. It's easy to get a weapon, but it's not easy at all to get a silencer. So that's interesting.
Yeah, I must say the silencer thing is quite a newish thing. It's the last couple of years, maybe say 5 years or so, where that industry boomed. Before that, the guys just shot without silencers. It's just, sorry, I'm just checking the comments.
Yeah, it's nice because it's very nice to go out and shoot with a silencer, compared to the ear damage that it does.
Yeah, it's just with hunting, not to scare, in the end of the season. I don't know how it is in the States, but here in South Africa, if you go hunt, you want to hunt. When the season opens, it opens in the 1st of May, yeah. But you try to be of the first guys that go hunt, because in the end of the season, you know, with all the shooting, you know, the bucks seem to run all around. You know, they don't stand still for a second. So then it's quite challenging if you hunt towards the end of the season. And I think that's part of why guys have switched over to silencers. You know, just to calm down the wildlife a little bit.
Makes sense.
Dean, but I've got one eye here on the time, and it seems like our time is up. Can you believe it that we almost talked for an hour? I want to thank you. I want to thank you for being part of the program, and I hope the guys didn't laugh too much about my English tonight. I've really tried my best. I don't usually only use it for self-defense, but you know, not only that, not only for coming on our program, I want to thank you from all the people of the folk, like I say, you know that word, of just being out there and you know, being an ambassador of our message and our plight, you know, everything that we need to go through, like I say, farm murders. Yeah, I can't say just the president, your president, just as bad nowadays, but you know, just to tell our story and to make people aware, not only in South Africa, but all over the world. And I thank you from the bottom of my heart.
Well, you know, I'm just trusting God that maybe he'll open some more doors. It was interesting when we couldn't get back from, we were stuck in COVID and we couldn't get back to the States. And the phone rings in the middle of the night, and it's a senator from Texas who, a good friend of mine, had worried a millionaire to death till the millionaire made the senator call me in Texas. I mean, in Pretoria, and say, "Hey, I heard you're stuck there with your son." So I'm waiting, and we've had so many problems in America that I haven't had the opportunity to. At least I can get a letter to this guy, you know. So I'm hoping one day, if the doors open up, you know, I can write this guy and say, "Hey, you remember I was stuck in South Africa with my son. You helped us out. Oh, by the way, are you aware of what's going on?" You know. And so I'm just trusting God that I'll be able to do something, you know, do my little bit. And if everybody did their little bit, I think that, you know, it would make a big difference. But at the end of the day, you just get up every day and you trust God and ask him what you're supposed to do and how you can make a difference. So that's all I'm doing. You guys are the heroes in my book.
Yeah, like we say, my time, your time, and God's time is not always the same time.
Oh, that's for sure, isn't it? That's for sure. And don't let anybody give you a hard time with your English, because you know what? You're out there doing it, and they're what we call armchair quarterbacks. They're sitting in their little armchair telling you how to play the rugby game. They're not even out there playing it, you know. Yeah, so that doesn't work. Don't let them give you a hard time. You did great.
Now I must say, Jan with a beard, Johan van der Merwe from the Free State this weekend, he took part of a feedback for some other bill regarding the education, you know, a new education bill. And Johan spoke, and he spoke in English, and he did quite well. So I'm sure he can laugh at my English now, because he had his turn this weekend, and he did very good. I say, I think that's that. I see our time is ran out. So yeah, thanks again, Dean.
Thank you very much, Elvain. Thank you very much, Boermedia. Quit. Thank you. Really appreciate it. Thank you very much. God bless.
I say, dan wil ek ook hier van my kant af, ek kan daarom so 'n bietjie in Afrikaans afsluit, en dankie sê vir Dean dat hy deel was van ons program. Ons hoop julle gaan kyk na sy musiek. Mense gaan dit regtig, dit roer aan die hartsnare as mense gaan kyk na deansongs.com. En dankie vir Koot en Rinus wat vanaand agter die skerms knoppies gedruk het. Ek het vir hulle gesê ek gaan braggies nie die knoppies kan druk en Engels praat nie, so baie dankie vir hulle agter die skerms. En dan vir my is dit soos ouer gewoonte, alles van die beeste en groente op die plaas.